All right, everyone, welcome into this week's edition of the Deal in the Cards Q&A. The way this works is you leave your questions in the comments section on our YouTube channel or on Twitter. Tag us on social media, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can from our viewers this week. Anything Cardinals baseball related, is fair game. Cardinals dropped their third in a row today to the New York Mets. So things aren't looking great right now, but hopefully I can inject some optimism into this crowd for a change. To try to see what's going on. It's my first time running this Q&A, but I'm excited to get started. And the very first question for this week says, "What does your ideal bullpen look like? It is time for Fernández to go." Now I'm not really sure what the question means by it's time for Fernandez to go. He has options. You can option him to AAA. I think that would be the smart move because he did show that he has some pretty good stuff last year, specifically in the first half, right before August, where things started to kind of fall apart for him. Had a 9 ERA through 8 appearances in August and a 4.22 through 12 appearances in September. Post All-Star break, it was a 6.17, and it has not gotten any better this year. He just gave up that walk-off homer to Lindor to lose game 2 after Brendan Donovan hit a big homer. Um, so, yeah, I agree. I think it's time you know, get him some time in AAA, get him some reps down there to figure things out. Um, I think there's a couple of options that you can go with down in Memphis. But my ideal bullpen is a bullpen that's like fluctuating, right? So it's not going to just be 8 guys that are in the bullpen. There's probably very few teams in the league that we can really say that for, where it's just 8 solid guys. Maybe um, like the Dodgers or the Phillies, like one of those teams that has a lot of bullpen depth, has 8 set guys. But the Cardinals, to maximize their bullpen production this year, are going to need the Memphis shuttle to be running. And there's a lot of options there. Obviously, there's guys like Helsley, Phil Maton is going to be like in there the entire year, right? Those 2 guys are your closer and your setup man. And you're not really going to mess around with that. Jojo Romero is also pretty firmly in there as your number one lefty out of the bullpen. So that's already 3. And with the Cardinals actually going to a 6-man rotation, um, they only get 7 guys in the bullpen, right? Because Steven Matz is now a starter. And you only get those 7 guys. So I think it's even more important that you have the Memphis shuttle rolling as often as you can. And I know there's restrictions on how often you can call guys up and send guys down. Um, but then looking towards the other spots in the bullpen, I think for the most part you're going to have a lot of fluctuation. Kyle Leahy is really earning a spot in that circle of trust. He's probably my third option at this point behind Helsley and Maton for just leverage, right? And he seems to be someone who's growing in that role a lot. Probably the third best reliever on this roster, right? And he's shown the ability to give you multiple innings, which has been important when you don't have as many options out of your pen. And then the last 3 spots. Um, it's more interesting of a discussion right now. I believe it is Fernandez, King, and I'm forgetting one, but we'll pull that up on the roster. The other one is Matt Swanson, who just came up for Chris Roycroft. And Swanson is an interesting name, came over in the Paul DeJong trade. He's thrown 1 major league inning, so I would imagine he's a part of that Memphis shuttle. But right now, I think, looking at it, Swanson and King and Fernandez are 3 guys that you could move up and down. And I know King only has limited options remaining, but he's also like by far the oldest out of that group of relievers. And you do need him to induce that ground ball every so often, and he can give you length. He's got that rubber arm. If you need to get multiple innings out of a guy, and everyone needs a reliever and 2 in their bullpen that they can just throw to mop up in games that are out of hand, or games where just like low leverage situations, I think is what's reserved for King. And out of the three, I think he's probably the most safe, just because I don't know if the Cardinals have another lefty down in Memphis that they could really call upon to fill that second lefty role, especially with both Mats and Liberatore in the rotation. And I don't think Liberatore is a part of that anymore. He's looked really solid as a starter as of late. I know there's some concerns with his velocity holding over multiple starts, but what has it been? 4 starts now for him. He has a 3.60 ERA, and he's thrown 25 innings, which means he's averaging more than 6 innings a start. He threw over, I think, 6 2/3 today against the Mets, and was solid, right? Like, he wasn't the reason the Cardinals lost the game. Gave up 2 runs, which will happen against a strong lineup like New York. Just the Cardinals offense couldn't get it done. So I don't hold him responsible for that. And yeah, it does seem like if he limits the damage in that one bad inning that he has every single game, um, you know, he can develop into a really strong starting pitcher. So I would not, um, I would not put Liberatore in the bullpen as of right now. Obviously, that could change. You could see, like, maybe the league starts to figure him out and he's not able to give you that length, or his velocity starts dipping like it was in past seasons, and just having some of those issues. But I think you give him that runway right now, especially when the team is like, I don't know. And we can have that discussion about whether or not the team can contend in a future Q&A or in a future podcast episode. But I'm not really. I don't really want to comment on that when it's only 20 or so games in the season. But I don't think he's part of that bullpen future plan. Some of the guys that down in Memphis that are interesting. Riley O'Brien is someone I want to see get a chance to pitch out of the bullpen this year. Obviously, last season didn't go well for him. He had some injury issues, and then when he was healthy, it just was not good. But he has great stuff, electric stuff, and if he can put it together, I think he can be a real contributor in that bullpen. Rodri Munoz, we saw a little bit of earlier. He was one of the guys that actually the first guy that was sent down, or first guy that came up when Roycroft was sent down, and then he was sent down and Swanson was brought up. He's a guy that's intriguing. Chris Roycroft has refound his sinker shape, it appears, down in Memphis. So he could be a guy that they recall as soon as he's eligible to come back up. And then some of the other guys, Gordon Graceffo, I feel like has some intriguing value as a reliever. I think they're stretching him out as a starter down in AAA right now, but I feel like that's someone that we could see at some point. If the Cardinals need an extra arm and just need to give Fernández just a reset, I think I would right now probably once Swanson gets some more action. If that doesn't go amazing for him, then you could see Graceffo coming up in that spot. But I think O'Brien and Roycroft are the two guys I would probably lean towards as an option to replace Fernández for now. And then obviously I expect to see Fernández back up. He had a great season with the Cardinals last year, and I mean, I feel like his stuff is still pretty good. You just need to work on some things and get right before bringing him back up to the major leagues. A couple other guys on the 40-man. Tink Hence is on the 60-day minor league IL, so you're not going to see him. Also, do not want to see him as a reliever right now. Ryan Ludus is perhaps one of the least intriguing names on the 40-man roster, or maybe even in all of the Cardinals minor league system. But if you need someone to eat innings for a doubleheader or something, maybe he's a guy you call upon. Michael McGreevy is another name in the minor leagues. Do not want to see him as a reliever. His stuff plays as a starter. And then Sam Robertson and Tekoa Roby. Similar story for them. Don't want to see either of them. Well, Robertson maybe later down the line as a reliever, but Roby definitely not as a reliever. He has starter upside, so you don't want to see that. So I don't know. I don't think I really answered the question of what does my ideal bullpen look like, because I don't think there is an ideal bullpen. I think you are going down to AAA a lot to try to find those arms. But you know, hopefully I gave some good names that I'm looking towards, most notably Riley O'Brien, Chris Roycroft, guys you can call upon to replace Ryan Fernandez. If they do decide that he needs to go down, and I think that after last night's outing against the Mets, he probably needs a reset down in AAA. Next question. How about instead of saying trade Gorman, they actually give Gorman a shot like they promised? Prior to his hamstring injury, he would get 2 to 3 hits in a game. Then they would sit him the next game. That does not do wonders for a young player's confidence. I agree. And Nolan Gorman today against Kodai Senga looked absolutely lost on that ghost fork, which, fair enough. For a guy that strikes out a lot, chases a lot, that fork ball is nasty. It's a little frustrating because you kind of know that Kodai Senga is going to throw the ghost fork with 2 strikes, and he swings at it anyway. Even though you know that enticing fastball-looking pitch is going to dip below the zone and disappear. It's unfortunate, but that'll happen. Gorman just needs to grow and he needs to get playing time. And with the Cardinals roster as currently constructed, there's just a lot of young guys that need to get run, and there's not a lot of spaces for them to do it, right? Ivan Herrera's hurt, and you have Pajes catching most of the time. No one else on this roster is going to catch. Contreras isn't moving back. That's just not going to happen. Contreras is at first. That's a lock, no matter how bad it starts to look. And it seems like he's turning a corner. Hopefully we'll start to get hot soon. The Cardinals lineup really needs it. And then you have Brendan Donovan at second base, Mason Wynn at shortstop when he comes back, but Thomas Sajaci has been filling in really well in the time that he's been up with the team, and I don't think that they should send him down once Wynn comes back off the IL. Arenado's at third, and I feel like that's the frustrating point where Nolan Gorman probably would have gotten a lot of run at third base this season if Arenado had been traded like was the plan. And then in the outfield, you got Walker, Nootbaar, and Scott. All three of those guys, they need to be in the lineup pretty much every day. And then a platoon of Burleson or Baker at DH. And there's ways to mix and match it. You can put Donovan in the outfield. You can DH Walker, or you could, move Burleson to first and then DH Contreras. And there's all sorts of ways you can use that DH spot. The Cardinals actually haven't even gotten a home run, a single home run this year out of the DH spot, which is a little bit concerning because Burleson and Baker, their calling card, Baker and specifically his calling card is power, and we haven't seen him hit a home run yet this year. Burleson also similar, but I think at this point you have to prioritize playing time for Nolan Gorman over Alec Burleson, and we said it 100 times on the podcast, and we'll continue to say it. But yeah, I just think that Nolan Gorman's ceiling is so much higher. He has that 40 homer power. He's the only player on the roster that I think has that. And you just need to prioritize playing time for him to know what you have. And you can't let him get away and turn into like one of those pieces that Cardinal fans get so frustrated about, right? And I feel like it happens all the time. There's always a former Cardinal that's going off somewhere else, and justified or not, Cardinal fans are upset about it. And that would be Nolan Gorman probably next. And if I had to say, out of all of these guys that the Cardinals are trying to give playing time to, like, Gorman has the highest upside to just go off somewhere else. And for Cardinal fans to just be really upset and frustrated about it. And obviously things are maybe going to look bad with Gorman at times. He's very streaky, and that's totally okay. I think with what the season is meant to be, trying to see what you have in the young guys, trying to reset for next season and to contend for postseason spots and World Series titles in future seasons, you need to let Nolan Gorman play. And if he's terrible, that's fine. But at least you know that, right? He could just be awful, and that's okay. That's the point of this season. You're not trying to win the World Series this season. And no matter how enticing this young core has looked at times, it seems like they're a piece or two short on both sides of the ball, where the Cubs just have a more complete roster, and they're going to take that division. It looks like in the early goings, and they could prove me wrong, but the point of this season is to see what you have and to give all the young guys the runway. And Nolan Gorman needs that. He needs it. And it's frustrating to see that. He's not getting as much playing time as I think he should be. And I think that, like, honestly, if that comes at the expense of Alec Burleson getting playing time, I'm okay with it. Alec Burleson had a really rough second half last year where he got playing time. He got the run, and you kind of know what you have in Alec Burleson. And he's not going to give you that defensive upside in the field, right? He plays first base when he is in the field. He DHs most of the time, and that's just not as valuable as a second baseman that could pop 40 homers for you. It's just not. And it's frustrating to see that the Cardinals still don't always seem to recognize that, right? And he'll sit against lefties, but Burleson will be in the lineup against lefties. And it's like, no, you need to let Gorman struggle and figure things out versus lefties. And Burleson, we know what he is versus lefties, and it's not very good. All right. And Luke and Baker has platooned at the DH spot at times against lefties, and like his numbers this season aren't very good either. And Luke and Baker absolutely should not be getting at bats over Nolan Gorman. I feel like, right? And and if you want that weapon off the bench, if you're trying to win a game, sure, I'm okay seeing Baker pinch hit for a lefty and not using Gorman, but you need to give him these chances to grow and develop. But yeah, before we answer the next question, we'll have a word from our sponsors at 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. So 314 Sports Cards is located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, and they're open from 10 to 6 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards, and they have the newest selection of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. We love working with 314. Definitely go check them out. And if you go in, let them know that we sent you. We love hearing from them about how our viewers go and check them out. And it's been awesome to work with them. And yeah, I love 314. And then we'll have our word from Underdog Sports.
The Deal on the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries.
All right. And the next question says, at what point do we start to worry about Jordan Walker? His offensive numbers have taken a hit. And that's true, right? Like Jordan Walker, his offensive numbers started off the season really strong. He was hitting a lot for average. He was putting the ball in play. And it seems like that his numbers have taken a hit from where they started, right? And I don't really think that, Jordan Walker's numbers this year, like his peripherals, he outplayed them at the start of the season. And, it seemed like he was getting a lot of ground balls through the infield, some lucky hits. And it seems like a lot of those aren't really finding holes anymore. And, that's totally fine, right? Jordan Walker, his approach at the plate this season looks significantly better than it did last year, right? He's laying off the slider low and away. That was a big problem for him last year. So pitchers can't exploit him like that anymore. So he'll get more hittable pitches. And, like he needs to elevate the ball. That's been a problem since he came up. He has the pedigree for 30 plus homer power. He just pounds the baseball into the ground when he hits it. And yeah, that's something he needs to work on. He has elite bat speed, which is a little bit like, that's the one red on his baseball savant page where it's like, this is the one thing Jordan Walker is really elite at. He also hits the ball extremely hard when he does put the ball in play. But I just think you need to give him time, right? And it's difficult to like set a point of like, oh, this is when we really start to worry that Jordan Walker might not be a good player or a productive player going forward. I would say, honestly, just wait till the end of the season and see what happens, see what his numbers look like then. And if his numbers look, similar to this, his slash lines look similar to this, then maybe that's what you got in Jordan Walker. And maybe next year you don't give him as much run. And next year he's more of like what you're doing with Gorman right now, or what you're doing with or what you did with Dylan Carlson last year. But you have to let him ride out the season, and you have to play him as often as you can. And I'm fine with the off days. He got an off day today. He got an off day like a week or so ago. Like that'll happen. And I'm not like concerned about that. I don't think they're going to stop playing Jordan Walker just like because he's supposed to be the future, and he's only like 22 years old. So he's young and he can still grow. And I just think we need to emphasize that he's like just how young he is and just how much talent he has and the strides that we've seen him make so far this season. And it hasn't been great, like the offensive numbers haven't been the superstar that we think that Jordan Walker can be one day. But if we all thought that Jordan Walker was going to come out and on April 19th have a 950 OPS and have 8 homers by now, then we're crazy, right? Because that wasn't ever going to happen. Like there were going to be struggles, and that's the whole point of this season. That's what we need to do. We need to give them time and just let it play out. All right, we're going to try to run through these next few questions a little bit quicker because we are at the 20-minute mark. Why don't we have a pitching lab and hitting lab? Why are we so far behind compared to other teams when it comes to technology? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know why the Cardinals haven't prioritized development all this time, but what I do know is that they are now, right? They've brought in a lot of personnel, starting with Heim Bloom, to focus on development. And they're probably working on all this stuff right now. It's being built. They're building new facilities. They have new pitch tracking technology that we've seen at spring, seen down in the minor league camps and stuff like that. They're using more advanced analytics, and hopefully that pays off, right? And it is all still starting, but I don't think it's fair to say we don't have a pitching or hitting lab yet. I think those things are in development right now. Like they've either already been built or are being implemented currently. I think, yes, the Cardinals are behind. That is something that the organization got complacent after so many years of being in contention. They just kind of felt like they didn't need it. They did need it, and they're seeing the consequences of not having that now. And, there's a reason a lot of these prospects haven't panned out. It's probably because they didn't get the resources that other prospects are getting. And, that's hurt them, but they've recognized that and they're working on fixing that, which is really good and encouraging to see. But yeah, I don't work for the organization. I don't have all the information on exactly what's going on. But we do know that they are working on implementing a lot of the more modernized technology and getting improved player development and all of those things. So I'm encouraged by that. Should have happened like 10 years ago, but it's starting to happen now, which is good. The next two questions are about Ivan Herrera. The first one says, do you think Herrera's future is staying behind the plate or moving possibly to first when Wilson's contract expires? The other one says, so where do you see Herrera playing long-term? Crooks is in the pipeline. I don't know if we should be looking at when Contreras' contract expires yet, because I believe after this season he has 2 more years under contract and then a club option for another year after that. So he might have 3 more seasons left in St. Louis after this one. Herrera's situation is really difficult, right? Because he is just such a good hitter. He might be, and it's crazy with what Nootbaar and Donovan are doing, but he might be a more complete hitter than both of them because he also has that power, right? Like he had that 3-homer game against the Angels, and we started to see some of that power again in Boston right before he got hurt. And we'll have to see if that maintains once he returns from the IL. But like he was just mashing before he got hurt, and it seems like the Cardinals can't keep their catchers healthy. Like they start the season mashing and they get hurt immediately, and it's really tough to see. But for now, I think Ivan Herrera's future has to be staying behind the plate, right? And he's been working on that arm, and I think that's a skill that's fixable, right? Like he is one of the weakest throwing catchers in the league right now, but that's a skill I think that can be built up over time. And that's something the Cardinals are working on. He tried throwing from the knees back in Boston, or I think it was back in the Boston series where he was starting to work on that, and it didn't look great. Boston was kind of running all over him before he went down with the injury. But one thing that I have noticed is that the Cardinals catchers kind of don't really stand a lot of a chance against a lot of base stealers because the Cardinals pitching staff is so bad at limiting steals as well, right? You saw Juan Soto today swipe a bag off Matthew Liberatore, and Juan Soto is really slow, and he's not a base stealer. I think he stole like maybe 5 or 6 bases all of last season, and for him to do that against Liberatore, um, with Pozo behind the plate, who I think is our best throwing catcher, is rough. It's rough to see. And it seems like even with Pajes or Pozo or another catcher, the Cardinals just seem to be bad at limiting the running game, and that's a whole team issue. Um, and with Crooks in the pipeline, yeah, I mean he's a great defensive catcher. I could see them splitting time there because having a bat first catcher in the lineup is so valuable. Where like not a lot of teams have a catcher that's even a league average hitter, let alone a hitter like Herrera, who could be, you know, a top 25 hitter in the league at some point. Like that's the kind of production he's had in a small sample. Like he's had a higher WRC plus than guys like Corey Seager and Bryce Harper. And obviously, I'm not making that comparison right away. I'm not saying that he is those guys, but that's the potential that's in that bat, right? And that's extremely valuable from behind the plate. So I think if he can clean it up, you never really like focus your attention on the prospects that are in the system when constructing the major league roster, right? So like if Herrera is a really competent catcher and you have another catching prospect down in the system, that's great, right? But that doesn't mean that you're going to move Herrera to a different position necessarily. Like it's possible that they do that and they move him to first base, but first base is also a tough position to learn, right? Like we talk about transitioning. Oh, Jordan Walker can go play first base, but no, first base is a tough defensive position as well. Maybe it's not as valuable as some of the other positions, but it's not the easiest thing to pick up just for a guy that's caught his entire life. So I'm not sure that we should immediately be looking at like, oh, Jimmy Crooks is coming up in the next like year or two. Let's move Herrera to first base, because that's not fair to him, and that's not really like I don't know if that's the most productive discussion to be having. Um, I don't know. If that doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments. But I think for now, I would like to see Herrera behind the plate and just try to work on that arm, improve it to even like we've seen Jordan Walker, like just what he's done in a year or two, and like the jumps aren't always great, but he seems to be a capable defender in the outfield to the point where in a small sample size he's been above average in terms of outs above average in right field. Maybe Herrera, if he just works at it more and more and you give him more reps behind the plate, will be able to throw out base runners. And that's ultimately the goal. Like you want a catcher with a bat like that. That's what you want to see. Um, all right. The last question is probably meant for Sandy, but I'm going to answer it for him. How do you go to a Cardinal game for 3 hours and not spend any money on food? Well, I think this question is a response to Sandy's, Instagram reel, TikTok video that went viral like a week or so ago. I think it's up to like 300K views on all of our shorts platforms, which I think is kind of crazy for just commenting on attendance. But in that video, Sandy mentioned that he can often spend like $10 on going to the Cardinals games, and that doesn't include spending money on beer, concessions at the ballpark, and that's how he does it. And yeah, I can confirm that that's true. I've been to the games with him before and spent less than $10. I did not get food at the ballpark. I did not get a drink at the ballpark. We went to Cane's before the game. We went to the game and then we left. And that was it. And maybe that's for you, or maybe that's not, right? But that is possible to just do that. And we got people in our comments that were like, well, how could you go to a baseball game and not have a beer? And maybe if that's how you like to enjoy a baseball game, that's great. That's amazing. And I think that I'm not going to tell people how to spend their money. I'm not going to tell people that you should go out to the games or you're a fake Cardinals fan, because to be perfectly honest, I have only been to one game this season, and it was on opening day. And I would like to go back. I think the team is a lot more exciting and a lot more intriguing than it was, fun to watch than it was in past years, where last season I kind of stopped going after the Dodgers came to town, and I saw Shohei play, and then that was it. I didn't really go to another game. But I think this team is pretty exciting. And it's fun to just you can go on the aftermarket, buy some tickets, resale, and get a good deal on them, and have a nice night at the ballpark. But you can also, if you are really that fed up with the organization, I'm not going to tell you otherwise, right? Like this organization has been kind of hit or miss with me in the past couple of years, and I've chosen to spend my money on other things, and I think that's totally reasonable. But I do think that a lot of the claims that Sandy made, where it is just like we're not talking about Dodger games, right? Like I've been to Dodger games in LA, and they're extremely expensive. And honestly, those might be worth that price because the product they're putting on the field is really great. But the Cardinals tickets are not nearly as expensive as those. You could easily go to a game for like $10, not spend much money on food, and just have a great night out. And then for the parking situation, which other people have mentioned, Sandy does park in free parking on the street. If you're not a fan of that area, the St. Louis area, parking there, leaving your car there at night, I totally understand as well. Sometimes I get a little nervous when he parks there too, but yeah, there's definitely ways to get to the stadium without paying $30 for parking and without spending a ton of money on overpriced food. And that's the way that he chooses to enjoy the game. So yeah, if you want to enjoy that, then go for it. Well, that's it for this week's Q&A video. Hopefully I did a good enough job answering the questions, and hopefully in future weeks you'll just see me on the production on the back end, because doing one-on-one podcast is something I haven't done before, but it was fun. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a thumbs up, leave your comments in the comment section for next week. If you have any questions you want us to address, it will probably be Josh next week. And yeah, subscribe if you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Sandy.